Hey everybody, this is Robb Ryerse. I'm the political director of Vote Common Good, and you are listening in on the Common Good Candidates podcast, where we have conversations with some of the extraordinary, ordinary Americans who are running for office around the country. Today you get to listen in on a conversation that I'm going to have with one of my favorite candidates running around the country. I've had the chance to get to know Ty Pinkins over the last few months during his campaign, and super excited about his campaign for the United States Senate. So we're going to have a conversation about what it's like to be just a regular person who's decided to run for the United States Senate. And so hopefully you'll learn a lot and come to appreciate Ty as much as I do. Ty, welcome to the show.
Happy to be on, Rob. So grateful that you share this space with me, but also just honored to be able to share what's important to about the issues that are going forward for voters. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ty, let's begin with the end in mind. It's November 6th.
Mm-hmm.
What have you accomplished? What are you proud of? How are you feeling?
November 6th. I go back to the beginning of this journey that I've been on since January 2023, and the opportunity to spend 2 years, almost 2 years campaigning. That's a long time. Meeting voters all over Mississippi in all 82 counties, and not just meeting them, but listening to what voters have to say. Their issues, whether it's economic issues, whether it's tabletop issues like healthcare access, lowering prescription drugs, making sure that our children have the education system that they need in order to compete in a global economy, but also seeing on election day that what so many Americans, so many veterans have fought for generations, that this democracy is still intact. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing on November 6th, because I believe in this democracy. I believe in this country, and I love this country. You can see over my left shoulder the flag that I got when I retired after serving for 21 years. That's why I'm running.
Yeah.
Because so many service members, so many family members, so many sons and daughters and fathers and mothers have fought to protect this thing, this special thing that we have in this country that is the envy of the world, American democracy. And right now we are at a crossroads. And on November 6th, I'm looking forward to see where our country is going, because I think it's going in contrary to what it seems like right now. I think we're going somewhere special. It's going to be tough. It's painful to go through it, and it's scary, but I think we're going somewhere special with this democracy, and that's what I'm looking forward to on November 6th when we win.
That's
I
great.
say we. I'm not talking about specifically this campaign.
Yeah.
We will win, but as a country when we win.
I love your optimism. Now, so we often hear the phrase down ballot candidates. Mm-hmm. And what we mean by that is like people that, like, as candidates are listed on the ballot, president is at the top, and maybe, we always talk about voting for like dog catcher. I don't think I've ever voted for a dog catcher, but they kind of list based on federal offices first, and then how big of an area somebody is representing. You didn't choose to run as a down ballot candidate. You're pretty way up there at the top of the ballot, near the top, not quite at the top. That's where President Biden and Vice President Harris are, but you're kind of up there near the top. How did you come to decide to run, of all things, for the United States Senate?
Rob, that's an excellent question. And for me to make this decision to run for this seat, it goes all the way back to, again, my service in the military. And I was in my first tour of combat in Iraq. I had 10 years under my belt on active duty service, and my contract with the military expired in the middle of a war. So I was halfway through that first tour, 12 months tour, 15-month tour, actually. We got extended. And my contract literally expired. I was not under contract with the United States Army anymore. Of course, I wasn't going home. I still had a combat tour to complete. So I completed the rest of that combat tour without a contract. And on the flight home, I was on a C-130, and we were flying from Baghdad to Frankfurt. And on that plane, they had an American flag. We're 30,000 feet in the air. And at that moment, I realized it was time for me to reenlist. And that reenlistment was going to mean that I was going to be in the military for another 11 years, uh, which would mean 21 total years. And I stood up on the plane. I raised my right hand, and I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But in that moment, I also knew internally that at some point I was going to run for office. I was going to go back to my community and serve in my community in a different capacity after I finished my military career. Fast forward several years, retired after 21 years, got 2 law degrees, and I came back to the Mississippi Delta, where I was born and raised in poverty. And I started helping community members, single mothers facing eviction in the middle of winter, and low-income community members, farmers particularly, that were getting cheated out of their pay. And I'm getting to the point what made me decide to run for United States Senate. 8 farmers walked into my office one day, my law office, and they told me that they'd been getting cheated out of their pay, at least they thought they were, and they needed someone to represent them. I had 2 law degrees that the GI Bill paid for, JD and an LLM from the Georgetown University Law Center. And I said, okay. And I had all 8 of those farm workers to sit around a circular table, and I gave them a document to sign. And 7 of the farmers signed the document. One of them couldn't. He was 78 years old. And I asked him, can you please sign the document? He said, I can try. Turns out he was illiterate and could not sign his name, and had been working on a farm since he was 10 years old. And when I read the document to him, it was his first time understanding that he had been getting cheated out of his pay all of that time. And so I went to Washington and I testified before Congress, and I explained to them the issue. Nothing happened. So I came back to Mississippi and I sued those same companies that were cheating them, and we won. And it was that moment that I decided that if you are not going to represent all Mississippians, my opponent, Senator Roger Wicker, especially with issues like this, then you don't get to run unopposed. And that's when I decided to get into this race.
Yeah. What are the implications if Democrats lose the Senate in this election? I mean, currently Democrats hold a majority in the Senate. Republicans have slim majorities in both houses. Republicans have a slim majority in the House of Representatives. Democrats have a slim majority in the U.S. Senate. What are the implications of Democrats? Like, what happens if Democrats lose their majority in the Senate?
Yeah, I think we're going to win. I think voters are really, really tuned in this year. One, because they've been gaslit for the last several months. But your question is a serious one, and I think we've already begun to see what the future may be if Republicans come out successful in November. One, we've seen what Donald Trump will do. He's already told women that you don't get to make the decisions as to whether you're going to have access to reproductive health care. He said that women should be put in jail if they choose to have an abortion, even if they are victims of incest and rape. We've seen what they've tried to do with regard to books in schools. We've seen all of these things. We've seen the implications of what happens when when Republicans or conservatives have a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. So we don't have to think about or dream about what the implications may be. They are humongous. Right now, our country is at a crossroads, literally, where we get to decide, voters get to decide whether we remain a democracy or we are ruled by an authoritarian tyrant that has shown us, that has told us what he would do. And Republicans in Congress have shown us that they are willing to capitulate to him. Even my opponent. Think about this. And this is why this is personal to me as a veteran. I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. My opponent did the same thing because he is also a veteran. And he swore that oath multiple times as a veteran and as an elected official In my mind, you cannot honor that oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, on one hand, and on the other hand, also support and enable the very person who instigated an attack on our democracy on January the 6th. Those
Mm,
two things are diametrically on opposing ends of the democratic spectrum. And
mhm.
so that's why I say we are at a crossroads, because the people that are supposed to be upholding the guardrails have basically kicked the guardrails down and are not doing those fundamental things to protect our democracy and serve the American people.
Yeah. Ty, I follow politics pretty closely, um, and have, like, since I was a teenager. It's almost embarrassing. Um, and I follow, like I said, I follow politics pretty
Mhm.
closely. I have no idea who Roger Wicker is. I like like tell us about the tell us about this. What should we know about him, and like why would you be a better senator than Roger Wicker?
You know what? The fact that you say you have no idea who Roger Wicker is, and that there are a lot of Mississippians over the past year and a half that I've met who have echoed the same thing up in
Yeah, they
Northeast
don't know
Mississippi,
who he is either.
echoed the same thing, saying, I have no idea who he is. He's never been to my community. I've never heard from him. And some community members are surprised and excited that me as a candidate is standing on their front porch asking them a
Mhm.
simple question. My name is Ty Pinkins, and I'm running for United States Senate. I'd love to have your vote. And they said they've never heard that sentence from anybody, nor have they heard nor seen the senior senator from Mississippi, Roger Wicker. Roger Wicker is a person, I think, who has already displayed who he is and how he is not adequately representing the people of Mississippi. Think about it. Mississippi is last in job creation and economic development, last in healthcare. We're last in maternal mortality, last in infant mortality, last in poverty. All the bad things we are first in, and all the good things we are last in. And this is not something that's new. This is something that's been going on for decades. And Roger Wicker has been in Washington for decades. And so for me, if our situation has not improved and you've been in office for this long, you are either part of the problem or you're not there to create a solution
Yeah.
for our state. And he's someone who does not support women making their own healthcare decisions. He's already shown that he's been fighting against women's reproductive rights for decades, and he finally won one of those small battles against women's reproductive rights. Because, as you well know, Donald Trump, he nominated 3 Supreme Court justices, and those 3 Supreme Court justices have wreaked havoc on our democracy. Roger Wicker confirmed all 3 of those Supreme Court justices. And I think Mississippi voters need to hold him accountable because he has played a part in, for the first time in our country's history, our country's 248-year history that we just celebrated on 4th of July this year. He played a direct role, and for the first time in our country's history, a group of people, a specific group of people, losing a fundamental constitutional right, the right to bodily autonomy, and that is women. He's
Mhm.
also fought tooth and nail to make sure that we don't expand Medicaid in Mississippi, one of only 10 states who have not expanded Medicaid. Now we're last in infant mortality, last in maternal mortality, battling a diabetes epidemic. Yet people like Roger Wicker are saying that we don't want to accept federal dollars to expand Medicaid in Mississippi so people can have access to health care. Make that make sense. Make it make sense. And my thing is, if you are not trying to make your state healthier, then you are not supporting a robust job and working group of people that can boost our economy. You're not working to benefit our community and our state, and you need to come home. And that's why I'm running. And a lot of Mississippians see that.
Yeah. So, what's it like running for office? Like, is you're not a career politician. You've served as a, in the military. You've been a lawyer. Now you're running for office. So, like, give us a little window into that. What's it like?
For me, it's an honor.
Mm,
It is an absolute honor to drive around this. It's hard work, but it's an
mm,
honor to go around this state and ask people for the most valuable thing that they have. It's more valuable than their bank account. It's more valuable than the currency that they have in their pocket. It's this token that Mrs. that Americans get every 2 to 4 years, depending on when an election come around, and that token is their thumbs up or thumbs down, their vote. That is an honor to do that. And for me, growing up in poverty, a single mother who was 15 years old gave birth to me, and she dropped out of high school. My biological father left before I was even born. So my stepdad met my mom when she was 8 months pregnant, but he was in the sixth grade when he dropped out. So
mm,
two parents who didn't receive a formal education raised a son who became the first in his family to graduate high school, the first
mm,
one to attend college, to serve in the military for 21 years, to receive the Bronze Star for actions in combat, and to come back home to those poverty stricken communities with 2 law degrees and put those law degrees to work. And now driving all around Mississippi, all around our state to 82 different
mm.
counties and talking to people about the issues that are important to me. Me, that is a tremendous
Yeah,
honor, a
yeah,
tremendous honor to do that.
yeah.
So for me, you ask, how is it running for office? It's hard work, but it's supposed to be hard. It's
Mm,
not supposed to be easy. This is not supposed to be a cakewalk. You're supposed to be
yeah.
able to get out there and ask Mississippians, ask Americans for their vote and be willing to accept when they say, you know what, I disagree with you and I'm not going to give it to you. Or when they say, you know what, I believe in what you're doing.
Mhm,
I agree that women should decide what happens to their bodies. I agree that our children should learn about our country's history, whether it's a bad time period in our history and good time periods, because over the arc of time, it's a beautiful thing.
mm,
When you really look at where we come from, take the state of Mississippi, for example. We have
mm,
a painful history of slavery and racism. However, when you take a look at where we are today, and where we came from, it is a beautiful thing collectively, the whole thing. And that's why I talk to Mississippians every day and I explain it to them like that, and they agree. And they say, you know what, I believe in you. Funny story is I met a young lady on the corner, white lady, in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, a few weeks ago, walking up the sidewalk. And contrary to my introverted personality, I stopped. And and I said, ma'am, my name is Ty Pinkins and I'm running for United States Senate. I'd love to earn your vote. And she said, okay, what are your thoughts on women's reproductive rights? And she folded her arms. And I said, ma'am, I think a woman should make that decision for herself. That's a decision between her doctor, and God. And me, I should not make that decision unless she invites me in to have that decision, specifically because I'm a man and I cannot give birth. Well, she said, I disagree. And she said, I'm pro life and I disagree with you. And I explained my position to her, my point of view. And I said, ma'am, I can't get pregnant, one. I cannot carry a child in my body, nor can I give birth. Therefore, I'm not qualified to tell you what to do with your body. And I said, if you're pro life, I want to fight for you as a pro life woman to make your pro life decision for yourself.
mm.
Just like I want to fight for a pro choice woman to make her pro choice decision for herself. It's called freedom, bodily autonomy. And she said, you know what? I'm a Republican and I'm pro life and I'm going to vote for you.
Mm.
Fascinating, isn't it? When
Yeah,
you actually sit down and communicate with someone and talk to
yeah.
someone respectfully instead of yelling and arguing and screaming and trying to gaslight people like we see in our politics right now.
Mhm. Now, you've been doing something that Doug Padgett, the executive director of Vote Common Good, would absolutely love. That this is like right up his alley. You've been running around the state of Mississippi, and I don't use running as a metaphor for campaigning for office.
Literally running.
You've been literally running, right? Like, is the goal is like 800 miles? Have you gotten there yet? Are you in the midst of it? How does all that work?
We about I would say uh almost halfway, a little less than halfway there. We're at about 300 miles now. We're about to
Yeah.
hit 300 miles. But you're right. I am literally running across our state. Um, one, because I'm a distance runner. I love it. I love it. And it started again when I was in the military. And ironically, when I was younger, I hated running. I was just this trim guy and I could do it, but I hated it. But then when I was stationed in Iraq, my second tour in Iraq, I realized how much I loved it. It was a mental health type
Mm,
thing where I could get away and I could think. And over the years, I've become good at it. And so now I'm running across the state on an advocacy run for women's rights, for economic prosperity in our state, but also for making sure that our children have a quality, affordable education. We started up in South Haven, Mississippi, which is the northern in DeSoto County, which is the northernmost county in our state. And we've hit Jackson, our state capital, which is 300 miles away. And we got about 300 or 400 miles to go before we hit the Gulf Coast. And so we've been doing that every other day. I'll get out there, I'll knock out 10 miles, I'll rest a day, and I'll get out and I'll knock out 10 more miles.
so
And just to see me when I run through some of these communities and I
mm,
stop and I knock on people's door because I have on a t-shirt and some shorts, and I knock on people's door and I tell them what I'm doing and they're blown away.
yeah.
And they'll say things like, you know what, if you're crazy enough to do this, you're crazy enough to be trusted to be my United States Senator. And they'll plant a flag in their yard. They'll plant a yard sign in their yard. They'll ask me for more material. Some of them ask me questions, but mostly they'll say, you know what, I appreciate you stopping by my house and knocking on my door and being willing to fight and advocate for what you think is best for the state of Mississippi.
Yeah. When people think about Mississippi, like they probably think about the river.
Hmm.
I like whenever I hear the word Mississippi, I like my brain flashes back to like third grade and learning
Hmm.
how to spell Mississippi, Mississippi.
Right.
Like I, what should we know about Mississippi that we don't? Like what tell us like give us the shameless plug for, you know, for how great Mississippi is and what we should know about it.
I'm a little bit biased. I think Mississippi is the best place ever. It's a beautiful
Mm,
place and it has beautiful people. And I think there's a misconception about our state that has been going on for since Reconstruction,
mm,
since the Civil War. There's a misconception about our state. Of course, we do have a painful history, like many other states in this country has. We went through the Civil War just like other states did. We went through Reconstruction. We went through civil rights, just like many other states did. No group of people have fought harder for civil rights and voting rights than Mississippians,
mm,
and we're still fighting that battle to some degree. But we are at a place now in this state where we have come so far. I can't count the number of people that I've met around this state, white people and black people, Republicans and Democrats, who pat me on the back and say, "Don't stop, keep going. We got you." Christian, Muslim, Jew, non-denominational, doesn't matter. Of course, we do. We have our ideological divides in this state, just like everywhere
mhm,
else. But we are a beautiful, beautiful place, and
mm,
this state, I love it more than any other place I've ever been. But Mississippi
mm,
is an absolutely beautiful place. Kind people, good food, good music. Mississippi is the birthplace of American music. So
mm,
all of that rock and roll and hip hop and R&B that people enjoy all over the country. Thank the state of Mississippi for starting that with our blues, with with Muddy Waters and all of those people that sang the blues down here. So it's an absolutely beautiful state, and I wish people would visit.
mm,
If you have never visited, visit Mississippi. Put aside the the ideas that people have about our state, put that stuff aside. Here I am with, I mentioned, two law degrees. I could be making $250,000 $300,000 a year working up in Washington D.C., but I chose to come back to my home state and live
mm,
here and raise my family here. And the reason I did that is because I love this state and it's a beautiful place to be and it's a healthy place to raise a family.
yeah. So, Ty, we ask voters, we vote common good, we ask voters to use the common good as their voting criteria. And
Mhm.
we ask people that are running for office to use the common good as their governing criteria if they win. Uh, Talk to us about what does the common good mean to you when you hear that phrase? How does that resonate with you? What is the common good?
For me, the common good is being able to see through all the noise.
Mhm.
Being able to say, you know what, regardless of who puts forth a policy, if it benefits Americans, if it benefits Mississippians, then you support that policy. You take that policy into consideration without pointing fingers, without saying, and I think the worst thing that happens in our politics today in Washington is we have people that are in leadership positions, in powerful positions, that will see the other side, whether that be Democrats or Republicans. They'll see the other side put forth a policy that'll benefit all Americans, Mississippians. And simply because that policy did not originate from their friends or them, they'll go sit on their hands. I think the common good is seeing through all that noise and saying, you know what, we need to work together. We need to be able to sit down and communicate and talk to each other without screaming and yelling and pointing and calling each other's names. And I think that's the core of the common good. Being able to put aside your ego, being able to understand that you're not in this position for you. You are in this position for voters. You are in this position for everyday Americans who are depending on you to make decisions that better their lives. I don't care if those decisions are regarding lowering the cost of prescription drugs, making healthcare affordable to everybody, making sure our children can read about our history, making sure that children who may identify as members of the LGBTQ plus IA community can read stories that they identify with, can find heroes in stories that they identify with. You know, I think
Mm.
that's the common good. Being able to put aside our selfish egos and say, you know what, this is not about me, this is about you. And I'm going to make sure that
Yeah.
I take into consideration policies that benefit you in your life.
Yep. Yep. That's great. How do you stay positive in the midst of all of both the busyness of a campaign and just kind of the negativity of politics in general?
Here's one of my mantras that I've had for as long as I can remember. Positive energy wins the day every single time.
Mhm.
Positive energy. That's true with regard to science, and I believe that's true with regard to personality as well. Positive energy wins the day every single time, and I believe that it's easier to smile than it is to frown. To be upset and to be angry, you have to have a reason. I can smile because the sky is blue or the grass is green or someone else is smiling walking down the sidewalk. And so just having that attitude going into what is the most beautiful democracy on this planet. We are blessed with so much in this country, you know, that um, that I appreciate the ability to serve in our military, the ability to go to attend some of this country's most prestigious universities, Georgetown University Law Center, Hoya Saxa, um, and the ability to live in the state that I love, in the country that I love, where I have so many freedom, the right to the freedom to criticize my own government, the freedom to disagree with you or anybody else, the freedom to say, you know what, I think women should control their own bodies, and to have a conversation with someone who disagrees with me, and then go home at the end of the day and eat dinner with my family and feel safe. All of those freedoms we have in this country. So that's why I'm so positive, because I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. And when I'm on the campaign trail and I'm talking to a group of people or I'm talking to someone who disagrees with me and it gets heated, I always say, this is the most beautiful thing about our country, is
Mm.
that we can have these conversations. And after we have this conversation, you're going to get in your car, you're going to go home, you're going to hug your children, you're going to hug your wife or your husband, and you're going to have a great day at home in your house with your family having dinner. And I'm going to do the same thing. And either we'll agree or we'll disagree, but our day is going to move forward, our country is going to move forward. So that's why I'm so positive all the time, because
Yes.
it's an honor to do this, to run for office, and it's an honor to ask people for their vote.
Mm. Mm. Uh, Ty, how can people find you and how can they help?
You can find me on our website is typinkins.com. That's TYP as in Paul, INKINS.com. All my social media handles, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, you name it. Some of them I can't operate, but I have it. At Ty Pinkins is our handle on all those social media apps, at Ty Pinkins. We need people to donate to us. Mississippi is the most difficult state for a candidate like me, a Democrat, to raise money in. And we are running against an incumbent who has a war chest of about $8 million. And
Mm.
we need donations. We need contributions to help us continue running this campaign to success, because we will win on November 5th. I think even though our country is at a crossroads, I think democracy is going to win. I think common sense is going to win. I think morals is going to win. I think the belief in treating people with respect and talking to people as though you respect them is going to win. And because fundamentally, I believe a majority of Americans love this country enough to recognize the risk and the threat that stands before them. So, yeah, thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate you sharing this space with me. To your listeners, go to typinkins.com, make a contribution, make a donation, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, get in there and smash that donate button, folks.
There you go.
Oh, Ty, I always enjoy talking with you. You always make me feel better about the country and better about the world. And so, thanks for jumping on and having this conversation today.
Thank you. Positive energy wins the day every single
Yeah.
time. You have a good
Oh,
one.
that's great. Hey, thanks everyone for listening in on this conversation with Ty Pinkins, who is running for the United States Senate from Mississippi. Conversations like this are happening every Wednesday right here, wherever you are watching or listening to this. Every Wednesday between now and Election Day, right here on the Vote Common Good podcast network. You can learn more about Ty and all of our candidates for common good by going to candidatesforcommongood.com, and we'll see